Look at my toes. How's that? This is a microphone check for everyone in the back. Microphone check for the press in the back. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I see thumbs up. Everyone good back there? A little bit extra for you. 1, 2, check 1, 2, 3, 4. I see a good. I see a good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Microphone check. Mic check 1, 2. He's good there on the end, on the right there. Excellent. Excellent.
Good afternoon. I guess you guys have had a lot of briefings, so I don't have a lot to say up front other than I think the meetings were great discussion for us. We had a lot of people from outside the league to bring perspectives to us, partners, business leaders, lots of sports leaders, including talking about some of our initiatives like flag football and international. And so I think that we gave everyone here a really broad perspective of some of the challenges and some of the opportunities of facing our league, and got to hear from some really smart people who have a very important perspective. So including some young fans, which was really a great opportunity for us to hear from a young school teacher who's using football to help teach her kids in classroom. So we thought that was really cool. So I'm happy to take your questions.
We have microphones on the sides. Let's begin with Rob Motti, Associated Press.
Hey, Roger.
You right?
The hot topic this week was the tush push, and it's been tabled until May. What are your thoughts on the health and safety concerns, the aesthetics of the play, and the possibility that you guys might go back to the 2004 and pre-rule of pushing and pulling?
Yeah, listen, the discussion on the tush push was very good. It was, we showed a lot of data, a lot of questions from the clubs, a lot of discussion about it. I think there are safety issues that are being considered in that case. We have very little data from it, but it's beyond data. There's also, there's the mechanism of injury that we study, that type of thing that leads us to show the risk involved with a particular play or particular tackle. So those are things that we did discuss. I do think there's a lot of discussion about going back to the previous rule, back to pre-2004. It's a dispute about how long that rule was in play, but the reality of it is I think that's makes a lot of sense in many ways, because I think it expands it beyond just that single play. There are a lot of plays where you see someone pulling or pushing somebody that are not in the tush-push formation that I think do have an increased risk of injury. And so I think the committee will look at that and come back in May with some proposals.
Mark Maskey, Washington Post.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, Roger. To what extent was 18-game season a topic of discussion with the owners at this meeting, and what do you see as the next steps with that with the union, or do you think that will go to formal negotiations anytime soon?
I may have heard 18-2 once, but it was not a focus of our discussions by any stretch of the imagination. Listen, we continue to analyze it. We'll continue to discuss it, obviously, with the players. They're doing their work on it. We'll all do our work on that. But I think, a lot of these things affect whether you would go to 18 is all the health and safety issues. I think that gives you the ability to think about that. So those are all, in the context of our season structure, is an important element of what we're offering to our fans and how we do that and how we're working with our players. We did have a pretty extensive discussion on the Management Council and the CEC on the workings of our current system. We had a lot of discussion about a rising cost, whether it's stadiums or international investment. So there's a lot of concern about a lot of those areas.
Let's go next. Ben Fisher, Sports Business Journal.
Hi, Roger. Following up on your remarks at the Super Bowl about a potential professional flag league, where does that stand? In what ways have you executed on that vision, and I guess what's next?
Yeah, that was a fair amount of discussion on our annual reviews, the session we had in particular on Sunday night. I think that was raised by both Caitlin and Serena, the importance of investing in women's sports and sports in general. We are very excited about the potential of that, not just for young women and professional league, but also for young men, and to give them the ability to play this game. It works for us internationally, but it gives people a chance to understand this game, and particularly the young women is the feedback I get from them is how helpful it is to them in building their self-confidence, and to be able to play this game is a joy for them. And so for us to be able to share that, I think is a positive thing, whether it's as a future Olympian or a high school player or a young youth athlete. I think those are things we're seeking to do, and it's clear that there's a lot of interest in the Pro Flag League. We have been getting bids on people who want to invest in that, either financially or invest in the operations of that. So we're hard at work, and I expect there'll be progress soon.
Left side, Mike Jones, The Athletic.
Roger, is there where do things stand for Justin Tucker and the allegations against him, investigation, or any potential discipline?
Yeah, I haven't gotten an update, but I know the review is ongoing. We won't be giving updates, but when we have something, we'll certainly share it with everyone.
Stephen Holder, ESPN.
Roger, somewhat a follow-up to the flag question. a lot of your players have expressed interest in playing in the 28 games, but obviously there are issues around that in terms of how you navigate, concerns of the club, whatever it might be, the union. What do you anticipate those conversations being like, and how much of an impediment will those issues be, do you think?
Yeah, I've heard directly from a lot of players who want to participate and represent their country, whether it's the United States or the country that they came from, to have them participate in that. And I think that's something that we'll continue the discussions with not just the union, but also the clubs. I think both of those are things that we'll probably resolve sometime in the next 60 days.
Randall Williams, Bloomberg.
Hey, Roger, another question on flag. I think 12 of the 50 states have permitted flag football at the high school level. There's some college level as well.
I think it's 14, maybe
14 now?
15 yesterday. So
15.
I think the 15th came in yesterday.
Well, thank you for the correction in advance. But what do you need to see in order for this to start? Do the LA 28 Olympics serve as maybe a trampoline where it's like, okay, we want to do this before or after? What's the timeline on a potential women or men's flag football league?
Well, I don't think that'll affect our ability to roll out a professional flag league, but I do think the Olympics is a critical moment for us in the flag development on a global basis. Listen, the Olympics are the pinnacle of international sport, and for us to be able to participate in that, to have both men's and women's flag teams participating from around the world is a significant moment for us. So there is a lot of lead up to that in the qualifications and how that happens. So that is clearly inspiring some of the work. But I think what you're seeing on the state level is really unrelated to that. It's just a demand. Young women, young men are asking to play, and there's a demand for it, and including on the college level. And so we are seeing that happen very rapidly. I think in addition to those 15, I think there's 16 other states that are going through some type of pilot program. So we see that growth continuing rapidly, and I think that's great for giving kids a chance to play our game.
Back right, Jonathan Jones, CBS Sports.
Hey, Roger.
Hey, John.
Detroit's proposal, I know they had a few, but Detroit's proposal on potentially reseeding in the playoffs. I know that there was some discussion that ultimately tabled that discussion for a later date.
Yes.
Curious your stance and the league's stance on those discussions and what you would like to see in the future, because that would be obviously a big change.
I thought it was a very healthy proposal and a very healthy point that we need to evaluate and continue to look at. It went through many different forms. There was some great data to show that we should really look at some form of this or some version of this. But there was also a really strong point of view that winning the division was the number one thing, that when you come into training camp, that's the goal. Win that division first. And should the reward for winning that division be you're in the playoffs and a home game? There was some discussion potentially about, if you were 500 or less and you won that division, should you also get the home game? I think there was some interest in that also, but I think the reality is it was very healthy. I think there'll be more discussion of it. As we look at our season structure, there will probably be a lot of discussion in that context also as we do that. But I do think, it's that constant work to be more competitive and to find new ways to create interest in the game. So I was really pleased with the discussion this morning.
We're here in front, James Boyd, Indianapolis.
You had Caitlin Clark come through and talk to the panel this week. Why was it important for her to come in and also, I guess, advocate for more women in flag football or just the NFL push in general to include more women?
Well, we're always looking for a perspective and to learn something. There's obviously, we have owners that are investing in sports, and in particular in women's sports. She's already an icon at a very young age. She was sitting there with the GOAT, Serena, who not just understands women's sports, she understands business and sports, and I think society. And I think both of their perspectives were really valuable for our ownership to understand, to sort of learn from them. We all got a chance to ask questions, and I just think that's what we're here for. And I mentioned that up front when we started our meetings. We're here to learn. We're here to to evaluate everything we do and try to figure out a way to do it better. And I think hearing from those two in particular, Eli joined them, Melody Hobson, who actually monitored the conversation, is a great investor in and of herself. And so I think having the four of them really brought to light a lot of the things that we're all thinking of as a league and hopefully as clubs, and to try to do things better.
Over here in part of that, Patrick Finley, Chicago.
Hi, Roger. This is maybe the third or fourth time I've asked you about the Bears Stadium
Let me
situation. Bears have owned land in Arlington Heights for over 2 years now. They've openly lobbied to build downtown. Does the NFL want a resolution one way or the other soon?
Well, I don't think there's a timeline on those things. Listen, making a decision either as a community or as a team is a generational issue. It really is a generational issue. It's an important issue for the community and the team. And so I think those discussions, it's not uncommon to be a 2-year discussion. They started very early. As you know, their lease is not up for another, I think it's 7 years or so. And those discussions you expect are going to be thorough. And they're going to be twists and turns through that process. And then you get to the process of having to actually build once you make those decisions ultimately. So there's a lot to do. I think the discussions and the exploration of different sites has been a positive thing. I know how important the Bears are. My wife's from Chicago, and she's a Bears fan. I know how important the Bears are to that community, and so I think everyone wants the right long-term solution. And I think that's the types of discussions that are happening, and that'll lead to that.
Ryan Wacker, Baltimore Sun.
Roger, in regards to the Justin Tucker investigation and then obviously Deshaun Watson a couple of years ago, I'm curious, has there been any discussion, be it at the league level with the league and clubs, about any sort of regulation or in terms of outside massage therapists among clubs and so forth, and maybe regulating that in some case?
Regulating what?
How, designating, in other words, designating maybe outside massage therapists and sort of looking at that use, given...
Well, I think some clubs do that, and they do make that service available in the facilities frequently, but I don't think there's any thought that we would restrict people from seeking a massage outside of the facility or the team. I have not heard that discussion. I think everyone's aware of the seriousness of our policies in this area, and they have a full understanding of it, and that we're going to uphold that.
Let's do a couple more. Brandon from Denver.
Roger, as you can imagine, the Broncos throwback uniforms were really popular this year. I think Sean Payton said it was his favorite. A lot of the players did. And I know that the use of them has expanded. What do you think it'll take to expand that same uniform combo, but a different color? So if they're on the road, they could wear the white version of the exact same uniform. I know that things move slowly with uniforms, but it's something that Broncos fans care about.
No, and I understand it, and I think we actually talked about it. Renee Anderson talked about that with the membership. We actually talked to our committee about a month ago on expanding some of the options that are available for our teams, but also making sure that there's an understanding about the consistency that needs to be in there from a brand standpoint. When someone turns on the television, it's great to see a new uniform or a new look, but you also want to know it's the Denver Broncos. And so I think that's an important element for us, is trying to balance innovation with making sure that you do respect the tradition, the brand of the team a little bit. But there was more flexibility granted this week. The teams are aware of that, everywhere from the uniforms to the helmet itself. And I think that'll be exciting for our fans. We have a couple of other new things that are going to be launched this year, including the Nike uniform program. So you'll hear more a little bit about that in the next 30, 60 days. So.
Two more. Rosanna Anderson.
You mentioned, obviously, your concern with the safety issues regarding the tush-push, but obviously there are inherent safety issues just with playing football in general. So I'm curious how you're weighing that against the considerations of wiping out the potential competitive advantage for a team, or just the optics of that even to fans, particularly obviously even one team that is really good at it and is dominating it, and how you feel about that aspect of it.
Well, listen, I think we're not looking at this as the context of one team. We're looking at is a particular play that may have an increased potential for injuries. As I said before, one of the things we're looking back is the rule we had prior to 2004 that didn't allow a lot of that pull or push anywhere on the field. And some of those hits happen outside of a tush-push. And that's one of the things we want the committee to go back and look at with our health and safety team to look at those incidents, and should our rule be broader than just a tush-push. And that's something they're going to bring back to the membership in May.
Last question to Sean. Bring us home.
Hey, Roger. This past season and this season ahead, there'll be 0 black offensive coordinators in the NFL. We've seen diversity, progress in other areas such as quarterback coaches. I think it was a league record number last season. Why do you think that hasn't translated to the offensive coordinator position?
That's a question we ask, and one of the things we work with to sort of how do we develop coaches that have the experience and have that kind of potential, which we know they're out there, and give them that opportunity. We had an offensive assistant program, or have it. We want to make sure that we're using those opportunities to be able to develop coaches that could do that. We have a lot of great offensive minds in the league, black, white, and young women too, that are coming into this. So there are only so many opportunities, so that's always a challenge. But I think, listen, diversity, and I said this back at the Super Bowl, there were a lot of questions on that. I think I've been very clear that we think diversity makes us better, that I think a lot of our policies are designed to give opportunities and develop that talent. A lot of our programs are designed in that way, and that we're fully committed to continuing that work to try to develop better talent and give them that opportunity and make the NFL better ultimately. So we're all in on that, and I think obviously we're going to be fully compliant with federal laws. We always have been, and we'll continue to do that. But we believe that our policies are had a positive effect. But the work's still, we're never said we're done. We got more work to do, and we'll do it. And it's going to make us better.
Okay, thank you very much. Safe travels.
Okay.